I am woman, I am fearless, I am sexy, I'm divine, I'm unbeatable, I'm creative, honey. You can get
everybody, my name is Pelmo Tabani, and I welcome you back, my beautiful family. If you're new here, you are most welcome. If you're an existing subscriber, I really appreciate you. Shout out to you. Thank you very much. Now, proceedings on the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial, they've continued following the short postponement to allow the defense team to go through data that was downloaded from the suspect's cell phones by the cell phone analyst. So the cross-examination of Constable Zungu will hopefully be rounded up today. Now, you know, the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial is unfortunately a gift that keeps on giving, especially for content creators. It keeps going on and on and on. The unfortunate and tragic part of it is that on the other side of it, there is a real family. There are real people who are looking to the state to bring it to a close. But even though it's been many years, close to 10 years, I think, it still shows no signs of narrowing down to something or someone. You know, we need to be seeing it being narrowed down, but it's still very, you know, everywhere. When Constable Zungu first took to the stand, I think many of us got very excited and hopeful at the possibility of it getting somewhere, especially with him saying all those things about him and the suspect spending a whole afternoon together drinking and partying on that day in Fort Lawrence at a hostel that was within the vicinity of where Senzo Meyiwa was gunned down. I think he was saying all the things that we wanted to hear as the public, because we're just so desperate to get to a point where we now see where this case is going. We now see who can be pointed at to say, now these suspects are the ones that need to take a fall for this. Now here comes this constable who was feeding us all the things that we wanted to hear. He placed all the suspects within the vicinity of the crime scene. He matched the descriptions of clothing, you know, the hoodie that he said the suspect number 2 was changing back at the hostel. So it seemed very promising. Now let's focus on the inconsistencies that basically came up from the cross-examinations with the defense team. Basically, what one can pick from all those long 5-hour court sessions is that him being a whole police officer, it took him a whole 5 years to come forward with all the information that he knew. That seemed to be so crucial to this investigation of this man's shooting. He totally sat on it. And in those 5 years where he sat on crucial information, an innocent man was wrongly arrested and later released. And even when a wrong suspect was arrested, he still didn't come forth. He was comfortable to just sit back and watch an innocent man get arrested. How awful is that? Even though the wrongful suspect was later released, at what point was this policeman, going to step up and say, no, you have the wrong suspect. This is what I know. Was he going to let this man just go to jail while he sat on the information? And when he was asked why he decided to keep this information about the suspect from the investigating team, he said he didn't have sufficient evidence to be able to go to the police with what he knew. And I'm sure at this point you're like, but you are a police constable. You are the police. The team that is investigating are your colleagues. You had so many chances. I mean, the man had so many chances to come up and say, this is what I've seen. This is what I know. He even said that he knew that the police will eventually find the right information. I mean, that's to say he wanted for them to go round and round on a wild goose chase and then eventually find whatever it is that they were looking for. Yet here we are, 10 years later, still looking for the right information. What happened to the oath that this man took when he started as a policeman? You know, this takes me back to the beginning of the cross-examination with Advocate Mshololo when he asked the constable, what his level of education and training was. The judge pushed back on it, saying how relevant that question was for the defense. To me, as the cross-examination continued, I began to see exactly why that question was relevant. It's a case of when you know better, you do better type of thing. Sometimes we do assume that people know better in some situations, and then we get very shocked when they don't act like they knew better. We get very shocked. So to me, her point landed very well to show that this man knew that amongst his duties as a policeman was to proper handling of firearms. I mean, his statement indicated that he handed over his gun to his nephew for safekeeping while they were out there drinking and eating and dancing and doing whatever. Was his nephew licensed to handle a police firearm, or licensed at all? Not just a police firearm. Was he licensed at all to handle firearms? And then the failure to report. Shouldn't he have known that as a policeman, it was his duty to supply the investigating officer with all that information as soon as he knew of it? It wasn't up to him to say it's not sufficient enough to be disclosed. When he finally came forward with this information, he still withheld some of the parts. He didn't report the exchange of the firearms that he saw at the hostel amongst the suspects. He didn't report the change of clothing that he allegedly saw or witnessed by suspect number 2. He didn't give the police descriptions of the suspects. So basically, it was still breadcrumbs. He was still withholding the information. Then this general who was given this information decided he was going to conduct his own investigation. Granted, that was fair. But allegedly, after he did conduct his own investigation, they both decided to drop the matter. Wow. On what grounds? Why did they decide it's not worth pursuing? You know, it's a very good thing that as a judge, you go to school for a very, very long time and you practice law long enough to pick up certain traits like being level-headed and being able to give people enough rope, as much rope as they need to do whatever they need to do with it. Whether they use it against themselves, it's up to them. I mean, if it was up to the court of public opinion, this man would have been thrown in jail by now, at least for obstruction of justice. I'm telling you, it's painful to listen. And honestly, personally, it's starting to sound like a made-up story. It's starting to sound like his word against the 5 suspects type of thing. It doesn't sound very concrete, you know. Imagine the anguish that the family has to relive over and over and over, listening to these people with these testimonies. What do you think, guys? Is this police constable making a lot of sense with you? I mean, the man is now not sure about the make of the car that they used to go get alcohol. He's not sure if it was an Uno or a Polo or whatever it was. It sounds like a made-up story. Sometimes you just look at a car once and you know. He said he spent a whole afternoon with these people. If it's true, it shouldn't be that hard to establish. Colonel Stein's testimony should help them to narrow it down. Isn't it he was the man who was studying the cell phone activity? He should be able to pick where the signals were coming from, where they enforced laws to begin with. They shouldn't have to ask them, were you enforced laws on this day? And then he says, no, I wasn't there. I was in Cape Town, or I was in wherever. The cell phones should be able to help them narrow down their activity on that day, and not their word of mouth. All right, guys, I'll see you again very soon. I do appreciate your time. Please take time to comment down below, leave your like, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already.